Today, it is time for a potential revenge. These two, they played a phenomenal series against each other just about a month and a half or so ago at the Esports World Cup. Spotting right here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the red Zerg drones, we have none other than Serral. His opponent, his teammate, his friend, down in the bottom right, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. We're looking inside of the main base of Reynor. Now, in case you haven't seen the series, or maybe you are fully aware, a nice little recap. These two, they played a match at the EWC that really should have been a Reynor victory. In the final match of that series, the score was all tied up. In the final match of the series, Reynor was significantly ahead. I think if he were to play that out again, he will win literally every single time. He just got a little bit over-eager, he got a little bit overly aggressive, and Serral ended up doing one of his miraculous holds, and then proceeded to become the world champion of StarCraft 2 a couple of rounds later. But there's a very good argument to be made that really, Serral should have been eliminated out of the tournament at that point in time, and, well, that would have certainly shaken things up quite a bit. Now, this particular best of 5 was played during the Maestros of the Game tournament. As you may have already noticed from the logo in the top right-hand corner, this particular series is, as I'm casting it, ongoing with an offline finals that will take place in Paris at the end of the month. So I believe the top 4 players are going to be heading on over to Paris to play out the entire tournament. And obviously these two are certainly favorites, but not everybody can make it. So let's find out together exactly what ended up going down. But I can pretty much guarantee you that Reynor is going to be looking for blood. There's about a 0% chance that he is happy with how that series wrapped up at the World Cup. It must have been one of the absolute hardest games for him to have ever played, because genuinely, if you look at those replays, if you look at those games up close, it was pretty much lights out for Serral. And then, well, he did like a Zergling run by to distract him. Reynor pushed a little bit too early, right before some additional roach reinforcements arrived. But I can picture the big push that he did with those roaches on Serral's side of the map. And Serral just did the most narrow defense I've seen in a while, and then proceeded to win the game quite a few minutes down the line. Either way, Incorporeal is map number 1 right here. Reynor opening up with a quick third hatch. Likewise as well for Serral. Keep in mind that these two have played against each other many times over the years. Historically, actually, even though Serral is the most successful StarCraft 2 player that we've ever had, historically, Reynor is one of the very few players that can really throw a wrench in any tournament plan. So, the thing that makes Serral really good is just mechanical perfection, right? He's extremely good at being a phenomenal strategizer, but also just having fundamentally really strong mechanical skills. So he doesn't really miss queen injects, he doesn't really miss creep spread, he doesn't really over or underproduce units. It's all of those little tiny things that add up to a point where at some moment it looks pretty much unstoppable. The thing is, this is a matchup that has a little bit of randomness added into it. The units move so freaking fast that the bottleneck really becomes being human. It's not so easy of a mathematical equation to solve. You really have to, deal with the weakness of the flesh. Ever since I've known the weakness of the flesh, it's disgusted me, you know. I would love to replace all of the flesh with artificial body parts instead and become part of the Warhammer Mechanicum. But anyways, that's one of the issues that these two players are dealing with. And since Reynor is one of the absolute fastest players in the world, he's slightly quicker than Serral, usually. He's up there together with Clem. In my mind, those are the two fastest players in the world. This Reynor does get a small little advantage here with the Zergling snipe. I think Reynor, having that speed advantage, he, well, right now it's not really noticeable yet in the APM count, but he can certainly catch Serral off guard. And he also is a little bit more of a gambler, I think, which can certainly work out really, really nicely in a Zerg versus Zerg. Now, thus far, this game is starting off very normal. No surprise there. Given that the last time they played against each other, they played some big macro games as well. This is also very much so a match where we're testing the waters a little bit. Some Zerglings go across, but across the board, this really is just a game where both players are trying to stay alive, and no early game rushes really will likely be coming up. I mean, maybe throughout the entire series, who knows? But if the EWC games showed us anything, is that the early game cheeses that they tried to go for at the time, they just did not work at all. So look, Reynor is going for a move out. He does a little bit of a push, shows it to the opponent's overlords, immediately forces roach production on the other side of the map, and then backs off again. It's a lot of these fake outs and a lot of these cheeky plays. Reynor, though, is now going to make the first big deviation. His lair is a little bit quicker, and he will be going into a Spire right now. Okay. Evo Chamber coming up as well at the front. That is, I guess, an alternative, well, solution here too. Serral already had one of his right over here up on the high ground, which I would imagine, yeah, has been seen here by Reynor, who's been looking around every which way he can go. Serral wants to get some vision, though. If he gets caught off guard against the Spire, that can be an absolute disaster, but the problem is these Overseers are rather slow. Yeah, Pneumatized Carapace coming up right now. It was the norm for a little while to actually get the Pneumatized Carapace while you are going up towards Lair Tech. Serral not doing that in this particular game, but it may very well make it so that it'll be difficult for him to really, well, scout that the Spire will be coming up. If you're caught off guard against a dozen Mutas, it can become a really big problem very, very rapidly. Now, keep in mind, of course, Hydras are a great answer, but you usually don't throw down a Hydralisk then blindly. So, Mutas are coming. +1 air weapons, also researching here for Reynor. Usually, you only go for that if you're planning on going mass Muta. So, that will certainly be a strategic decision here to make. Serral's sticking around on ground for now. And usually, when you are playing a ground-based army and your opponent is going Mutas, you really can't deviate from plan. You can't, like, make Mutas right now as Serral here. I just don't believe that would be a great choice. The Mutas do get scouted at this point in time. In the meantime, there is a push, at least thinking about heading across, but it's flown by a whole lot here. And I believe, yeah, Serral here is making the assumption that Reynor has seen exactly what is going on. A little bit of a Zergling run by as well, attempted on the left by Reynor, but not really achieving all too much. The difficulty usually against Mutas is securing a 4th base. Once you go up to 4 bases, you can go into a Hive, you can go into a Lurker Den, you can go into Hydras. But off of only 3, you usually don't have enough Vespian gas income to be able to reliably make all of those proper counters against the Mutas. And you never really know with Mutas. That's one of the difficulties too. You never really know if it's going to be like 10 Mutas into like a really quick Lurkers, or if it's going to be mass Mutas. Now, this is a nice little scout here for Serral. He does see, well, more and more Mutas being added into the mix, and he grabs a few drone kills too. Zergling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map. Don't think it will be getting too much done, but one of the queens ends up falling, and that's obviously one of the sources of anti-air. Maybe some of the drones are also going to be hurting. In the meantime, though, some damage has been done to the 4th. And I wonder if the Mutas can actually just join up together with the Roaches, and I wonder if maybe he can just take the base down. Nice burrow here from Serral, though. Quite like that. We normally don't see burrow this early on. But because of the tunneling clawed Roaches, it certainly is a possibility, and Serral is now desperately trying to buy some time. He did get some Roaches to the other side of the map. In the meantime, the Mutas are going to be working away at whatever they can hit. Looks like burrow has been used every which way. The Mutas decide to engage with both the Queens as well as the Hydralisks. This can be an absolute disaster here for Reynor. In the meantime, the Roaches have now arrived on the other side of the map, and keep in mind that those Mutas are obviously going to be able to counter them, but it's going to take forever for them to actually get the job done. Still, they can ignore all of the terrain. They can get across pretty rapidly. How much damage is being done here? Honestly, if you look at the worker losses, so far, it feels like not that much has happened yet. But both players are desperately trying to out-control each other. Now all of the tunneling clawed Roaches, though, are indeed over in the main base. And with some Overseers nearby, it should be a relatively easy pickup. There was still a little bit of counter-aggression there too by Serral, but at the very least, he managed to get all of those Mutalisks off of his back. 4th base is up and running. Worker count is not quite really where you want it to be, but he is now going into Infestors. He does have Spore Crawler set up. He is also going into Hydralisks. So at some point, Serral should be fine, but that is exactly what Reynor is trying to avoid from happening. He is once more showing up, and he is looking to finish the kill that he tried to start just a little bit ago. Nice snipe there on the Infestor. The drones do go down. A couple of drones as well on the other side of the map. This Roach still being a nuisance. 10 confirmed kills all on its own. Fungal growth is once more an opportunity. We have a couple of Banelings attempted to roll by, but that'll be the end of the hatchery regardless. Nice work right here by Reynor, who has now successfully contained Serral on 3 bases. So despite some of this damage being done on the other side of the map, the big story here is that Serral is not able to mine nearly as much gas as Reynor is. And usually gas is the main bottleneck. Now thus far, Reynor actually purposefully pulled out of gas there for a moment. Ooh, fungal needs to be taken into consideration. 1 fungal here and the Hydra's going underneath and it can still be over in a heartbeat. Serral wants to remake the base though. He does not feel like he has the opportunity right now to go across the map and potentially finish it. Roly-poly Banelings once more rolling through, trying to get some damage done. One of Serral's favorite moves against Terrans and Protoss players. Reynor trying to give him a taste of his own medicine, but only 2 workers end up going down there. Okay. Overlord speed is going to be coming up as well. The longer that this goes on, the better I like Reynor's position. Unless he gets... Serral, that is. If he gets the fungal of a lifetime, it is going to be a very significant uphill battle. Now, Serral is close to maxing out. 176 supply is not bad at all, and his army should be better than that of Reynor in a straight-up fight, especially if we take the Queens into the consideration and also the Spore Crawlers, right? They're just so freaking powerful. But Reynor has the eco lead, so he can send in wave after wave after wave of unit. Serral trying to get some vision here as well. He will see some of those units running by all of this. I think Reynor is setting up a very big engagement where he wants to come in from every side. And my question is, will the Banelings connect with the Hydralisk? Well, we'll find out in just a moment. Fungal growths are good. Very nicely done right there by Serral, as is to be expected. Microbial Shroud, actually a great choice. And Serral once more doing Serral things. He manages to get the job done somewhat, although Reynor looks at the Hydra count. Apparently he's not too impressed. He decides to just engage these units straight up. Roaches are going across again. Man, Microbial Shroud is actually quite good in these type of scenarios. One of the most uncommon use cases that we see in SC2, but I mean, it reduces units from the skies, right? Their damage is reduced by 50%, which is significant. Now the Roaches, though, are all over the bases. In the meantime, Zorklings and Hydras were putting in some work on the other side of the map. New units are popping out of cocoons as well for Reynor, who did bring the Mutas here back home. And I think he should be able to clean all of this up. Question is, at what cost? Well, it looks to me like it's been a very similar cost. Considering, though, that it's a wash of the armies, and considering that Reynor has had more economy all the way through, it should be a slight advantage here for the Italian player once again. Now, though, Serral has arrived at Hive Tech, and he's going into a Viper. Now, it's only 1 Viper, but Vipers have a skill called Parasitic Bomb. Parasitic Bomb deals 120 damage to an area of effect, and Mutalisks have 120 life. So even though it's only 1 unit, the wombo combo, right, of an Infestor with Fungal and then a Viper with Parasitic Bomb can change the tide of battle extremely rapidly. So it's still a flimsy unit composition, but luckily here for Reynor, his APM is high and he can actually manage all of these different engagements at the same time. Serral, though, creating a lot of distraction. At this point, there's 34 Mutas, so they can actually go after all of these troops pretty easily. Man, if you could snipe the Viper, that'd be big. Reynor just barely doesn't have vision of it. What about this push right over here, though? Serral loses 21 drones to the Banelings and the Mutalisks. And that is not what he expected. Oh my god, here it comes! He tried to get the Parabomb! He did get the Parabomb together with the Fungal Growth! So many of the units will indeed pop, and that is about half the army of Reynor disappearing in the blink of an eye. The Infestors can hide underground by using their burrow ability, but the Viper did pay the price. Still, I think the fact that Serral just lost 30 workers may just be a little bit too much. He doesn't really have the army, I don't think, to go straight across the map, although I might be wrong. If you add all of these little squads of Hydras and Roaches together, he might be able to move everything in. Yeah, here we go. This is Serral effectively going for an all-in. Reynor is droning up. He needs to get all of his units back home ASAP. There is still, though, 19 mutas available. 15 Hydralisks, 3 Infestors. Where are the Infestors? They're not with the main army at the moment. I think they may still, yeah, be moving in across the map. This is giving Reynor enough time to bring all of his troops back home. He's gone for one squad of Banelings as well on the left. Couple of units over here as well inside of the main base. Zergling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map. Serral looks at the army and he recognizes that he's not likely to win the main engagement, so he moves back home. But what is he moving back home to? 25 workers worth of economy? You're not likely to be able to muster up an army big enough. I think this is what he wants to do, man. He wants to get another one of those Vipers out. They're expensive, but even with a small economy, you can still afford one. So let's see, the ball is back in Reynor's court. He wants to move through right now. Infestors are currently burrowed. You can't fungal from a burrowed position. Okay, Reynor needs to be careful. One fungal onto the Banelings would be an absolute disaster too. But again, more Zergling run-bys. Reynor's signature move for many years now. And he is still getting more value with those bad boys than anybody else. He wants to go for the worker kills over at the 4th base as well. But surprise, you've already killed them a little while ago yourself. Nice fungal over here at least, but that was not a cost-effective trade there for the Italian Zerg. But so far, he has Serral on the ropes. Serral is forced to go for a push. Again, I think he should have committed to the previous one. But now he is going to be able to move across the map with Vipers. Only one of them has energy for a parasitic bomb. Yeah, I wonder if that's enough to once more push this army back home. Zerglings, Banelings, Mutas, everything goes across again. Roaches, though, do want to finally commit to the fight. There's not a whole lot available anymore inside of the main base either. That Spore Crawler will go down. Reinforcing Mutas and Zerglings are going to be jumping on top of this. And actually, Reynor is going to be able to snipe the Hive. The requirement to make a Viper is to have a Hive. And at this point, well, Serral's economy, his tech, everything is going down the drain. Burrow is going to be used over here, actually, by Reynor, too, to save some of those workers. I'm still a little afraid, though, that we're going to see one of those combinations again, right? Fungal, 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 fungal! That's exactly what I was worried for. This Muta, though, is going to be split off from the rest. Quick reaction speed right there by Reynor. There's still chaos all over, but he has multiple squads of Mutalisks right now. Man, these two playing against each other make Zerg versus Zerg such a phenomenal matchup. I know that this, in general, is a matchup that a lot of people don't necessarily love, but my god, when you have the absolute best of the best playing against each other, they can make any matchup look phenomenal, especially when they play such a weird unit composition. Are we gonna settle this match with a base race? Is that the goal? Well, the win condition in a game of StarCraft 2 is to destroy all of your opponent's structures. The armies do not matter. If the structure step is empty, that is the end of the game. I think Reynor, though, is likely going to have to go home, although I say that he has more bases. And obviously, he can quite easily as well send, well, a couple drones around the map, maybe build a hatchery somewhere else, at least take all of the extractors. Spire, though, at this point is gone. Serral is starting to overwhelm the old main base here of Reynor, but he has already lost his own on the other side of the map. The multiple control groups of Mutas is actually very smart. It is just going to make it so much harder for Serral to get the one golden engagement. Yeah, there's just way more stuff here. Vipers dying to Spore Crawlers is about the last thing that you want. As a matter of fact, I think he may have lost both of them, because there are none anymore on the units tab. Serral is now revealed. This means that Reynor, this is his vision right now, can see where the final structures are. Hatcheries are coming up left, right, and center as well, but I think, I mean, the faster moving army here is certainly the one of Reynor, right? And because of that, I think he should be able to win the base race in the long run. We have squads of Mutas, little pockets of Zerglings, left, right, and center. But he is smelling a victory. Serral is never going to be able to outpace this extremely fast Mutaling army. And I think we are witnessing the tail end of the match. Yeah, Reynor now sees that it's only a Roach Warren and then, well, a couple of extractors are remaining. There's one lurker available, but I don't think it really matters. Are we dancing, Reynor? Is that what we're doing? Are we rubbing in a little bit of salt? Did Serral make something? Yeah, he did build. He did build another extractor on the other side of the map. What are we doing, Reynor? Oh no, don't style on him now, Reynor. Reynor can just go win. Why are we not just... I think he's a little bit afraid of potential building structures. You never really know. It is one of the many questions you might be asking yourself, but I think this is Reynor celebrating the win maybe just a little bit early. Then again, the actual unit count is low, and I think Serral recognizes it right now. Reynor decided to rub a little bit of salt in the wound. Next up, we find ourselves on good old Gresven. What a phenomenal first game in the series. That match really had it all. I don't believe you can really hope for a better Zerg versus Zerg than the one that we just watched. I think a lot of the interest too, right? Even though the mirror matchups may become a little bit plain if you compare it to, say for example, a Terran versus Zerg. Sorry, what is going on? Lag, I feel it too. Lag AA, it's probably me. The cabin isn't cutting it. I'm on mobile internet, but it's working? Where is Serral? What is going on? It's fine the moment that turned off the camera? Interesting. I am picturing a cabin in the middle of the woods, somewhere in remote Finland. There's probably nothing other than internet that is working some of the time, and the sauna. It is kind of remarkable how Serral seems to live a very simple life, despite being, at least financially, the most successful StarCraft 2 player. I've seen many of the StarCraft 2 players, you know, especially the Koreans, rocking their Gucci sweaters and all of the fancy clothes and all that, and Serral only ever wears a team jersey, I'm pretty sure. He's probably wearing a team jersey when he's not playing StarCraft as well, you know? It's probably just his go-to outfit. Anyways, what I was trying to say, right? I think what makes mirror matchups interesting is when you have different unit compositions going up against each other. So in the previous game, for example, we had Mutaling Bane going up against Roach Hydra, right? Like, I think that creates a very interesting dynamic. Likewise as well, you have the same thing when it's, say, for example, Terran Mech going up against Terran Bio. I think those type of unit compositions do make mirror matchups very interesting almost all of the time. It's just that if you look at, like, your average ladder heroes, Zerg versus Zerg, it'll be over by minute number 5 because, well, one of the two players probably mis-microed against the Ling Bane bust, and that is about it. But when you have the absolute cream of the crop playing against each other, it is something beautiful. Well, let's see. Serral's heart rate, by the way. Like, I keep thinking about this from the EWC. So we had these, like, heart rate monitors on the players. Across the board, I mean, obviously, the accuracy of those heart rate monitors, you have to take those with a grain of salt, right? But I feel like across the board, in every series that I watched, the player with the lower heart rate ended up winning. I haven't fact-checked myself, but I feel like this is about right. So anytime we saw the player with the I feel like it was pretty much always the player with the lower heart rate. And there is no denying that in any of the series that Serral played, his heart rate barely went up. I think the highest we ever saw it was like 140 in that series against Reynor. But most of the time it was sitting at like 90, maybe 100 or so tops. Whereas a lot of the other players, they were idling. Like, they were just chilling, right? Quote unquote chilling in the middle of a series while sitting in a chair, moving their hands around with a mouse and a keyboard, right? They were idling at like 140, which is pretty nuts. Serral's, though, always a little bit lower than the rest. And, well, just makes you wonder, why is that the case? Maybe it's the sauna. My theory is the sauna. Maybe this is the missing link for many StarCraft players out there, okay? Maybe 20, 30 minutes of sauna a day. It's got to stress your heart quite a bit. And therefore, you must train it, right? Like a muscle. Anyways. Serral looking around here. Mostly just pushing back whatever the opponent is throwing at him. We do have a Roach Warren coming up right now as well for the finisher. Reynor, though, sneaking out a Roach Warren here on the other side of the map and hiding it behind the mineral line. So this is one of those games where we do have a little bit of build order variety. Reynor trying to see if he can potentially get some real damage done. He is pretending like he's playing the macro game. Serral sees now that there is an evolution chamber building, and this works exactly into Reynor's plan. Reynor is shoving all in with a Roach Zergling push? Well, let's see. He's got a lot of links here too that he can morph into Banes, although at this point there's not a whole lot of gas available. The defense needs to be solid for Serral, but Serral is misreading this entirely. He now recognizes what he's playing against, but he just finished a big round of drones. Oh, Baneling detonation right there. Extremely fast splitty there from Reynor. Reynor has got twice the army of the opponent. And the Roach Warren from Serral is also exposed, but I don't think he really wants to go. Oh my lord, really? Serral taps out before the fight even begins. He knows that Reynor played him for a fool. That has got to feel really good for Reynor. Not only did he outpace and out-macro Serral in the first game of the series, he now tricked him in game number 2 into thinking it was an entirely different build. That all-in, by the way, is one of those strategies that works well at the highest level, but is pretty terrible on the ladder, because it requires your opponent to scout. So Reynor clearly has been studying Serral's scout timings. He saw, okay, he's always going to check at this point for a Roach Warren. He didn't see the Roach Warren. Okay, as a follow-up, he's always going to be checking at this point for an Evo Chamber, so I guess I'll show him an Evo Chamber. And across the board, he sold the story that really wasn't happening at all. A complete misread from Serral. And Serral decided to not even take the fight. So that now means we find ourselves on Tokamak, which is match point already here for Reynor. I don't know if there is anybody in StarCraft 2 at the moment that can win 3 games back to back to back against Reynor. Reynor really is an absolute monster. I feel like his performance at the EWC was good, right? Like, he played really well, but he almost got a little bit unlucky. I don't think he really got to show what his actual form was like. Because across the board, he has been playing some remarkably good StarCraft lately. Just not quite able to string all of the wins together to win some of the biggest tournaments. But he really has been good. Now, of course, if anybody can do it, if anybody can win 3 games back to back to back, it would certainly be Serral, who is not likely going to be feeling any of that negative momentum right now. That does seem to be a thing, and especially for players like Reynor, like Clem, like many of the programmers out there that are usually quite momentum-driven, meaning that if they win a couple of games, usually they will win the next one too. But Serral might just be able to put a hold to it, so let's see. Obviously, this gives Reynor a lot of wiggle room too, right? He can go for a variety of all-ins. He can serve his opponent a platter of cheese, and it'll be up to Serral to try and hold. Third hatchery again coming up. A pretty early third hatchery as well here. We'll probably see one here as well from Serral. There we go. Third hatch. Bang. Bang. Okay, we're making a couple. Bang. And ultimately the base is at the exact same timing. He just sent the drone a little bit earlier than Serral did. Okay. Baneling Nest coming up for Serral. This is very likely going to be a defensive Baneling Nest. Obviously, he can't really be cutting any corners anymore. Likewise as well, though, we have one on the other side of the map. But already the positioning of this is a little bit annoying for Serral. So far, in every single one of these games, he has seen a Roach Warren and a Baneling Nest at the front. Well, I guess the Baneling Nest was hidden in the previous game, but he saw at least the Baneling Nest at the front. And it's going to be slightly more difficult to scout now. Is he hiding it? Did he skip it? Did he decide to just, I don't know, put a whole lot of lings inside of the main base? Is he re-rallying? There's a lot of sneaky all-ins that you can go for in this matchup. Whereas in reality, Reynor is actually opening up very standard. Serral not really able to get the vision, though, at the front. He is going to go into link speed now, so link speed is finished. He sees, indeed, that it is an Evo chamber. So 9 times out of 10, there should also be a Baneling Nest somewhere. Serral, though, going for a quick Roach Warren of his own. No Evo chamber just yet. Evo chamber is usually a big indication that you want to go for some sort of macro play, so seeing the Evo chamber here will probably keep things reasonably safe. Again, though, Reynor is sniping all of these units like he did in the previous match, denying all sorts of scouting, although Serral may have seen the little wiggle there inside of the Evo chamber. Roach Warren over here, though, is indeed coming up, and Serral is mostly just trying to scout. He really is trying to piece together the puzzle. He sees the Roach Warren here at the front, so that's something. Evo Chamber of his own as well on the back of this. What he would really like to know, though, is whether or not there's a lair coming up. At this point, we have additional gases, but no lair. He also has prepped a little bit of supply. Is Reynor actually just going for like a +1 roach push? Is that what we're doing? Yeah, I think so. +1 roaches, but without a lair, so without roach speed. It's a bit of an odd one. But it is something that can certainly work out. Serral likewise already preparing a load of units. Maybe he's actually the one going for that sort of attack as well. But obviously he's the one without the +1 missile. And if you're both playing the same push, if you're both making the same units with a similar economy, and one of you has upgrades, obviously that is wildly beneficial. The roaches here of Reynor are going to hit way harder than those of Serral. Serral is going to go into a few Ravagers right now of his own. Reynor may have been planning on being the aggressor here, but he's going to be able to use his units defensively. These upgrades, man, the +1 missile, if he can actually finish it up before the engagement starts. Oh my god, he snatches one of the Ravagers. That's huge. Gets a Roach as well, or at the very least softens it up a little while. This bought enough time, though, for the +1 missiles to be done. Right before the attack begins, Reynor hits a big power spike, and I believe that that is going to make this fight so much better. Sniping the one Ravager is big. Serral notices the upgrade and immediately taps out. Well then, just like that, in a series that isn't even a half-hour long, Reynor grabs revenge over Serral here after losing to him at the EWC, and he did so in spectacular fashion. I mean, I just casted some series featuring Serral, where he made himself and Zerg in general look utterly broken, but in these games, he just got outplayed in every way. Sick.